let's move on now
Yes.
to the 25 to 34-year-old.
Yeah.
Does this person fall into the Ubuntu millennial group?
Yes, so the broad classification would be anybody from, let's say, 1980 upwards. But I think they form the upper echelon of this group. So these are guys who've now been working for a while, or they're just starting in the job at the lower end, but they're tech savvy, but they also now have to provide for their families. I think there's probably a bit more pressure on this group than even the younger group, because they too can be the sole provider many times, or the sole earner. Let me rather say that. And as you'll see there, I think we're almost on 30% of guys say that they chose the bank because of the rewards program. So what this just tells me is that it's all fine and well if you have a lot of advertisements, and that's a great way to get your products out there and to get your bank seen. But because I'm under pressure, or because I am aspirational, if you give me something back, if I spend my money, then I will be with your bank. I think what banks also miss, especially when you target LSM groups, is that if you get these guys, this group, to bank with you, then you can grow them and offer them more products as they go along. Then they don't need to go and get a home loan at another bank, because as I say, people are generally happy with their banks. So if and I think retention is easier than acquisition in terms of getting new consumers to bank with you. So we build up the trust, offer more products, but also if I spend money, I'd like to receive rewards. And not just necessarily cashback rewards, but rewards how I want to spend it. If I want to go and buy myself a pair of shoes, I should be able to do that. And there are definitely banks with rewards programs that allow you to do that.
Now, despite the fact that this was looking at a township demographic, I'm sort of slap bang in the middle of this age group.
Yeah.
And it certainly rings true to me and my peers. I look at the 90% I'm interested in financial education.
Yes.
I'm after the rewards. I use my cell phone to interact with my bank. I think really most South Africans, I'd venture to say, in this age group are interacting with their banks in this way.
Absolutely, and that's what we're seeing. So initially we thought as well, that's the fantastic thing, as Peter, our CEO, always says about research, it's not what you know, it's what you don't know. And I think initially we thought, okay, this is the township demographic, but I think we are realizing that, and that's an important thing I think for banks to realize, that it's the general consumer demographic. It's not just townships. These guys live in townships, but they also live in the suburbs and urban areas. So absolutely, I mean, I'm stuck, well, let's say more towards the upper end of that age group, and I agree with you completely. So the guys are still they're tech savvy, but they actually do physical interactions as well. I think that's one thing that surprised me, is actually how many guys said they would rather have longer operating hours or more branches and ATMs. And I think that might fall into the financial education, where if you actually teach people how to operate and your different systems, then you don't need to go into branches. So that's the positive thing I think we take out of this, for the banks at least, is you don't have to spend an exorbitant amount of money to create new branches and new ATMs. On the back of the financial education question, we also asked how you would like to receive the financial education. And people were more than willing, and in fact that was a top score for all of the age groups, to have a personal call from their bank. So
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, usually I would imagine that we're trying to avoid the bank calling us, but actually it does make sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I just use myself as a example, so my one name is Petrus, and I know if somebody calls me and says, "Hello, is that Mr. Petrus?" then they're trying to sell me something. And I think that's a gap that banks can breach, is forget about the impersonal touch. People don't mind getting a phone call at a convenient time and say, "Listen, we're not selling you anything. We'd like to ask you, do you know how to use your cell phone to do the banking? Would you mind us taking you through the process for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we can do a little test afterwards or whatever, to make it easier to bank.
Absolutely, because the last thing I want is somebody phoning me up and I know that I'm a number on their spreadsheet and they don't really know how to say my name and they don't know how I bank. But if somebody's offering me valuable information, I'd be willing to listen.
Exactly, and as long as it doesn't, it shouldn't always come with, and by the way, for 15 rand a month, you can,
Yes.
you know, because people are overexposed and extended to third-party marketers just taking up their time. I mean, there's fantastic research being done about how valuable time is. That is the commodity that we're dealing with in this day and age, because you never switched off. Your phone is always on. People can always reach you. So the 8 to 5 business hours, you know, it's pretty much gone out of the window. That's why people value, I think, personal time so much. So yeah. Anyway, as I said, I think actually, you know, there's a huge gap for banks to have a system where they can educate